All right, all right. Let's get this party started, shall we? I will just get rid of this, pull in the game. Here we are. Here we are, chapter 5 of the Magician's Workshop by Choice of Games. This is a choose your own adventure story slash game set in Renaissance Italy in the year of 1512, the year that Cardinal Giovanni de' Medici came back into power in Florence, Italy. So we are an apprentice in a workshop. We will go over our stats really quickly so everyone knows where we are, that we're on the same page. And welcome in. Hi, Winter Fairy. Hi. Say hello to your lovely children for us. But yeah, hello, hello. I hope they're eating yummy food. All right. So we have a pretty decent health at 52%. We've had it higher, we've had it lower, but so far we're healthy. Forgiven value of healthy. We're not super healthy, but we're healthy. The workshop morale is a touch over percent, so that's always a good thing. We've lost that morale, we've gained it back. It's been a thing. We have spent 8 soldi very recently, and so we only have a lira and 12 soldi at the moment. 1 lira is 20 soldi, just FYI. And the workshop is running low on supplies. The master, before he died, left us quite in the lurch, so we're doing what we can. The fresco we have been working on is nearly done. One more session, and hopefully, we can get it completely done. Let us hope and pray. The machine has not even yet done. It is one of 6 secret projects that the master told no one about before he died. Out of the other 5 secret projects, we have chosen these 3 to work on. The weapon for Alfonsina Orsini, which we've made some progress on, a flying machine for Henrique of the Congo, which we have yet, and a magic purse for Lucrezia de Medici, which we have also yet to start. As for our magic skills, alchemy is our lowest at a touch under 50%. We dabble. We don't dabble well, but we dabble. As for animation, we're almost solidly an animator. Though, to be quite frank, Fiametta is the more solid of the 3 of the workshop. And our soothsaying is very solid. Exactly as much of an expert as our mother, but we do take after her in skill. As for our practical reasoning is a thing that we dabble in. Our artistry is just ho-hum, generic, neutral. Our deck is not great. We're a little clumsy. And our confidence, also not great. We're a little unconfident, but we have guile for days. And our strength is our best stat. We are strong. We are strong. For our traits, we are adaptable, quite eccentric, bold, not neither bold nor cautious. We have plenty of goodwill. We're very humanistic, and we believe in democracy. We are democratic. As for our many relationships, this list has grown longer and longer as the story goes on. Piero is a bit, well, she's difficult to be, but we're trying. Andrea is a little in us that we did not become an animator. Nah, well, I should say they will have to live. Andrea is very androgynous and very they them. Stella, our mother, solidly loves, and we love her back. Giovanni de Medici on us. Niccolo Machiavelli is fond for a family friend, as is Dangerous Clement, whose commission of the vault we are not doing. The Monticello is unhappy spoke about him to anyone. Her bestie from forever right now, they were a little bit annoyed with us that we didn't become an alchemist, but, well, she'll get over it. Alfonsina Orsini, we managed to impress just a tiny, teensy tiny bit, and we are working on her. Hopefully, she will be quite pleased with us by the end. Lucrezia de Medici is very neutral on us, but we are also working on her purse, so hopefully she will also be happier with us someday. Henrique of the Congo is a little bit fond of us in our first meeting, and, well, we're working on his flying. But unfortunately, Judah Avenel is only fond of us because we told him about the Monticello and is going to be quite unhappy when we work on his pen and ink until later. We don't really have the skills for him, unfortunately. He's asked for a very difficult thing. As for our reputation across Florence itself, the Medici are still very much neutral on us, the confraternity similarly so. We do have an amount of respect from the people of Florence. They're to be the easiest for us to generate, and the respect of the workshop is still very neutral, but we have not pissed them off yet, and that is always a good thing. So that is where we stand. Let us return to chapter 5, Shadows and Secrets. Thanks to Fiametta pulling your blanket off and whacking you with it, you wake up early enough to spend some time decoding the notebook before the day's other work begins. What pronouns feel the most comfortable for us, chat? What do we feel? Are we a he, him today? Are we a she, her today? Or are we with they, them? We have been a they, them through both one as a non-binary person and this one as a sometimes female-leaning, sometimes male-leaning person. So what are we today, chat? He, him, she, her, they, them. You tell me. I realize that I have mostly lurkers today, but please, please tell me help. Help. I need help making decisions. All right, then. I'm going to go with they, them. Keep it consistent. Well, those pronouns work for every gender, and they're great. They're not my personal pronouns, but they're great pronouns. I have they, them friends. They're awesome. You know the word at the top of the page says the machine, but the diagrams underneath it look like something out of a nightmare. Nothing like it makes any sense. The next several pages all seem as though they belong to the same set of instructions and diagrams, but you have no idea what it is supposed to be. It's certainly not any of the 5 commissions you've taken on. So the master had some other secret project. Perhaps it was mere fancy, just a collection of doodles or disconnected ideas. That would explain why nothing joins up or makes sense. But it wouldn't explain why the master took such pains to encipher and hide the book, or why the Monticello took the trouble to send you looking for it. You groan and sink your head into your hands. The only way forward is to do the hard work to decipher it. You'll have to find a way to figure this out while working with Fida. I know it has something to do with a machine, but I have no idea what kind or what it does or anything else on the page. What anything else on this page means. So, will our solid goodwill help us work together? Will our not so great confidence guide us through it? Or are we so adaptable we can work with anyone? Let's see what's higher, shall we? When it comes to confidence, we don't have it. When it comes to adaptability, we're almost adaptable. Our will is slight. So adaptability or goodwill are likely to get us through this. But which we will use, I mean, technically we should probably go with a higher percentage of the adaptability, even though it's just a single percentage. Goodwill. So the choices we have right now, chat, are 1, 2, or 3. Goodwill, confidence, adaptable. Those are the numbers and those are the keywords. You can use either both. Chat. What should we do? Do we use our goodwill, our lacking confidence, or our adaptability to figure this out with Fiametta? I can make this just by myself. I would prefer chat jump in and help me. Help. Okay, I'm going to go with adaptability because it is our highest percentage. Hopefully that will get us through. You hand Fiametta the notebook. Do you have any ideas? Fiametta says, well, I can see that every drawing seems to be on the same scale. Could they fit together in some way? Many of the diagrams in the workshop are made by dedicated draftsmen. It isn't easy to reproduce a real object on paper. Philippe Brunelleschi? I stumble over this name every time because I'm not Italian enough to be able to pronounce it. I apologize to the Italians. Who built the great dome that meets the Florence skyline, used to use a camera obscura to project these, to reduce reality to something in two dimensions. It's one of those rare tasks that no magic can help with. It must be done with hand and eye and brain. The master was a genius in many ways, but he delegated the making of plans and diagrams to his apprentices years ago, and it seems he was out of practice. Pages are covered in scrawls and erasures, and even the few marginal notes that aren't enciphered are nearly impossible to read. There are drawings overlaid on earlier versions, sometimes 3 or 4 versions deep, and it's hard to tell which is the final one or whether the master ever reached anything final with this project. Hey Trav, welcome in, welcome in. After all, this isn't a reproduction of a real device, at least not one you recognize. It appears to be something's imagination, something he was designing. To whose specifications, and to what end? So, do we think we can reason this out? We'll use our soothsaying skills to try and glean what they're intended, or are we an artist and can understand how any shapes might fit together? Now, if we go back to here, soothsaying is 67, reasoning 54, artistry is 50. So soothsaying is the best bet. We could fail it if we wanted to. So, chat, 1, 2, or 3, reasons, soothsaying, or artist. Are we going to figure out these notes about the machine? What do we do, chat? What do we do? 1, 2, or 3, reason, soothsaying, artist. I'll take numbers or keywords, either. Trav says tempting to fail it. Could be amusing if we just can't do it and therefore don't have to work. It's true. I'm actually thinking, I mean, we have yet to decide whether we will make the machine around or not. So, what should we do, chat? 1, 2, or 3? You tell me. I can make the decisions, but I prefer chat's help. I mean, if we don't figure it out, it's possible that whoever is helping us decode this will. So, this is the first of Fiametta with us helping. Our first blind one of this story, we had both helping us figure it out. So 3, Fiametta asks if we can put them together in some way. So let's try that. All right. Going with artistry. We do not even want to show off our soothsaying skills this time. Got it. There are circles of various sizes on the first page. With your mind's eye, you pick them up, manipulate them, but you can't make any sense out of them. It's like a puzzle that doesn't fit together. It takes you forever, but at last you see something that might be coherent. Those aren't just circles of different sizes. They're gears. And the squiggly lines must represent some sort of magical force. You manage to decode 3 pages of the book. You haven't a complete plan yet, but you're starting to get a sense of something complicated and big, very big. You don't relish the idea of seeking out the mysterious Monticello, but he's the only one who seems to know anything about this notebook. You'll do it on your own, though, no endangering anyone else. We'll have to think about what this could be, you tell Fiametta. To object, but a peal of bells reminds you both that the working day is beginning. Your team will be waiting to work on a commission, and you can't afford to have them sitting idle. To work! You go down to the workshop and find your team already there waiting, and you permit yourself a small small smile of satisfaction. Everything's a mess, but the workshop is full of good people who care about the work they do. That is reason enough to keep going and to try and make sure that they can all be proud of what the workshop becomes. Piero and Fiammetta have agreed to devote their teams to the workshop's other, smaller projects for the next day or two, freeing your team to work on the big commissions. As you approach the table where Team Mandrake is sitting, though, you become aware that there's a cloud of apprentices. Not a literal one, thank goodness. You still can't think of the day a young student's weather experiments went wrong without shivering. No, this time there's nothing to be seen, nothing tangible, but it's there nonetheless. A frostiness between the three of them. They aren't talking to each other. Good morning, you say, ready to get to work. Yes, I am, says Luigi, and you detect a certain sulky emphasis on the I. All right, you say, sitting down on the remaining stool at the plain pine table. Let's have it, shall we? What's the matter between you three? They glance at each other, shamefully but angry. At last, Francesca says, It's only a little. Little disagreements can become big when we're wielding spellcraft and hammers, and I'd rather not be near anyone carrying a grudge, you respond. It's silly, really, Luigi says, pushing a lock of dark hair out of his eyes. I turned to buy the wine for today's lunch, and I forgot. That's all. Silly to you, Francesca mutters, because you have money. Luigi glowers. I wish nobody knew that my family is wealthy. I wish I could have kept it a secret. It's nobody's business, and it has to do with me. I've left them behind. If you didn't act like a Francesca tests. It's the third time this month you've forgotten, and we know it seems like nothing to you, but it's not nothing to us, Angelo adds. We always have to bring extra wine because we know you'll forget, and that means we spend more than you do. And if we complain, we just feel worse because of course we don't want to be the people who complain over the sake of a cup of watered wine, Francesca says, throwing up her hands. We can't win, and we're tired of it. What do you want me to do? Luigi says. There isn't time now to go and get it. They all look to you. Your reputation in the workshop will rise if you team, and it will sink if you can't. You'll have to find a way to mend their disagreement. So, our choices are 1, we'll adapt our plans for the day to help them work through this. 2, the great thing working for a grump like me, they'll be forced into camaraderie. Or 3, they're grown adults. I'll let them decide how we get through this together. Is definitely adaptability. 2 is the opposite of goodwill, misanthropy, I think. And 3 is definitely goodwill. Or actually democracy. Adaptability, misanthropy, and democracy. 1, 2, or 3. We have pretty high ability and pretty high democracy. I actually think our democracy is higher than our adaptability, though. Yep. Democracy 63, adaptability 59, but will not work. We have too much goodwill. So 1, 2, or 3, adaptability, misanthropy, or democracy. Trav says 1 is the better option because making them hate us or ignoring the problem are both really dumb. It's true. It's true. Anyone else want to weigh in on this vote before I click next? Oh, Winter Fairy says 1 also, so the ones have it. We shall adapt. Listen, it's not the end of the world if Luigi takes a few minutes now to go and buy some wine, you say. While he's doing that, Francesco and Angelo, you can get started making notes for our work today. Then, Luigi will work a little longer into our lunch break. Is that all right with everyone? Luigi nods. Thank you, Principia. And I know I won't forget the next time. See that you don't. Francesca and Angelo brighten up. Problem solved. With your team ready to work at last, you have a few hours to get ahead on the commission. It's a good moment to take stock. What are your pronouns? What are we feeling? We started the day with them pronouns. We get to change them. Are we a he, him, a she, her, or they, them still? 1, 2, or 3? He, she, they. What do we feel? What are we feeling? Fairy says stick to they, them. Is that the chat consensus? They, them it is. We will stick to the they, them pronouns because that is very easy. You can choose to work more on the weapon, or you can get started on another project. What shall we work on today? 1, 2, or 3? The purse, the weapon, or the flying machine? We will finish the weapon if we work on the weapon. We will make a little bit on either the purse or the flying machine, anything else. What do we want to do? Do we want to finish one to ensure that we get that florins and we do not upset Alfonsina Orsini this time? Or are we going to start on something new? Winifred says start with the flying machine because we have yet to see the flying machine in action. What does chat think? Please, please tell me. I will go with the consensus. Trav says we should finish off the weapon. This means that you've left it up to me, chat. You should feel guilty and terrible about that. Winter Fairy, you're too easy to guilt into changing. Fine, we will finish off the weapon today. The best designer for this project on your team is Angelo, because he's always at the potting wheel and understands the construction of objects. For this project, you want sketches that you can keep to use to guide future repairs, since weapons have a way of getting damaged. You bring Angelo a silver stylus, a bit of good silver wire in a wooden sheath, and you ask the other two apprentices to prepare a sheet of good paper coated with thick, even gesso. This will take the impression of the wire, and the traces of silver left in the grooves will darken in the air over time. You put the materials in front of Angelo. What do you think? You prod. Should we start with the vines? But Angelo frowns. I'm not sure we should be building this at all. We could be responsible for the deaths of thousands. A principled objection that could slow things down, and the look on the faces of the other two members of Team Mandrake says you have more than one uncertain apprentice on your hands. If you can convince Angelo, though, they'll all come around. Can you persuade Angelo that weapons are necessary? Which arguments can you make with fever and sincerity? Or are you yourself so unsure about this that you'd rather scrap this project, lose the time spent commission, but gain the respect of the workshop? If you stop working on it now, you won't be able to finish the weapon, which means you've lost time spent on it, and Alfonsina's reward and respect. The apprentices will look up to you, though, and know that they depend on you to make principled choices. So, Angelo is right. We should stop working on this commission. There has always been war, and that's not going to change. Neither should we. Humanity is terrible and always will be, so the least terrible people need weapons. Or, without force, there is no order, and without order, there is no peace. So, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Angelo, war, humanity, order. I'm not entirely certain what trait Angelo being right is on. It might be goodwill, which means number 2 is probably tagged to misanthropy. Number 3 is obviously humanitarianism. It's also possible that 1 is democracy. Not entirely certain. But 1, 2, 3, or 4. Angelo, war, humanity, order. Winifred, good point. Angelo may be right, but we do need to get paid. We absolutely need to get paid. So, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Angelo, war, humanity, or order. Which do we pick, chat? Which do we pick? Trav also makes a good point. There will absolutely be other weapons, and it's not like we're making the only one in existence. I mean, she did say remove, not kill. The fact that this has the potential to kill, it's not our fault. It also has the potential to just not kill people. Trav says 3. Does Winter Fairy agree? Does anyone else chat agree? That's true. Ending a war quickly does mean less fighting overall. 3 it is. Humanity is terrible and always will be, so the least terrible people need weapons. You are all too young to remember the Pazzi conspiracy. Even the Pope in those days was involved in violence of neighbor against neighbor. Oh, he was very careful not to overly sanction killing, but made it very clear he wanted the Medici family out of Florence. The conspirators killed Giuliano de' Medici during Mass, stabbed him 20 times. But their conspiracy failed, and the Medici family was not ousted, not that time. And what happened to the conspirators? The people of Florence killed all they could. They used their heads for door knockers. Violence will happen with sticks and stones, with knives and arabesques, with magical machines, and it is hideous in all those cases. We live in the land of the Condottieri, hard men who will fight for anyone. War could come to us at any moment. Isn't that a reason to have fewer weapons in the world, not more? For a moment, you see a glimmer of that better world, but you blink and it vanishes. One day, perhaps. For now, in this imperfect age, we have a job to do. They're unconvinced, and the final design will probably suffer for it. They're losing time. Come on, let's just get it done, says Angelo. Dang it. We did not run that very good. It will not be good. Nope. A catapult is easy enough to build and requires no special design. Still, a catapult that works smoothly and well, true aim, is a thing of beauty, and you're proud to see the apprentices put it together in no time at all. Now for the difficult part. Figuring out the pattern in which the seeds will need to land and putting an animation spell into the seeds so vines grow rip stone from stone. The animation spell of the seeds is tricky because you're animating something that doesn't exist yet. It requires a great deal of imagination and concentration. After you finish, you plant one seed on a bit of damp stone to mimic the conditions you hope it will find on the walls of a city or fortress. The vine springs from it instantly. Success! Next, you do what you usually do when faced with a tricky problem. Do we doodle because it's good for the hands? Do we pace because it's good for the body? Or do we stare? Staring is 9 of art. I believe this is dexterity, strength, or reason. We have strength solidly. We could do with better reason. We could do with better dexterity. Dexterity, strength, reason, 1, 2, or 3. You guys. Chat, which one shall we do? Doodle, pace, or stare? It will still work, Trav. I think better the most. You think it's Dex healthy, but who knows? That could be. It wouldn't hurt to have more Dex. It also wouldn't hurt to have more artistry. It's at the top. Is either health. Second one, either way. The third one is either reason or artistry. Either way. We could use better for both. So 2 or 3, doodle, pace, stare. What do we do, chat? What do we do? Pretty please, tell me. If I have to make this choice again, I'm guilting Winter Fairy. Don't make me guilt you, chat. It's not a lost cause. It's still neutral. See? It's still neutral. It's fine. Our health is not terrible. Our strength is very, very solid. Reasoning could, or artistry could use a boost, as could dexterity. Our confidence is a lost cause. Welcome back, Mary. I hope everyone is fed and happy. Happy full bellies. But doodle paste 1, 2, or 3. You tell me. What are we doing to fix the problem of dealing with these vines? Winter Fairy says doodle. She wants to be better with her hands. What do you agree with one, Trav? I guess we're going with circles, faces, trees, patterns. Anything that sets the hand in motion sets the mind in motion. You come up with a pattern for the seeds scatter that you're confident will allow the vines to break a wall in the least possible amount of time. Another little animation spell to make sure the catapult gets it right, and you're done. Your animation and reasoning skills have created an impressive win. The noon bell rings and work in Florence comes to a halt, or at least as much of a halt as it ever does. Most artisans take their food at their desks or in their workshops. There are street carts that sell small clay bottles of weak wine for this purpose, and hand-sized loaves of bread and bricks of cheese. Your mother's father is dead now, but you remember him telling you about the building of the Great Duomo when he was a child. The impossible dome on Florence's cathedral is held together by animation, and so it didn't need a framework of wood despite its size. The builders had few ways to scramble up and down, and so they used to stay up on the rafters all day and eat their lunch there. So the dogs of Florence learned that they could catch the odd scrap of bread of now and again if they loped around the cathedral, and so even the dogs in Florence are closer to God. So your grandfather used to say anyway. As for you, the cathedral always inspires. Enjoy your coffee when you. So the cathedral either inspires all human ingenuity, an overwhelming sense of the divine, which is, I believe, what we chose last time because we were very much more faithful, or a feeling of love for the world and all who live in it. So, ingenuity, divine, love. 1, 2, or 3. Trav feels the power of having 2 votes go to his head, but what are we picking, Trav? Since you are picking for Winter Fairy, 1, 2, or 3. Ingenuity, divine, or love? Tell me. 3. We love everyone. Every single person. Bob. He can rot in the darkest pits of hell for being so loud in the middle of the night. Yes, we love everyone. Darn that Bob. So loud. All right. Feeling of love for the world and all who live in it, it is. You leave Luigi, Francesca, and Angelo to their meal and tell them that if you haven't returned by the time the workshop bell rings, they should carry on and help the rest of the workshop with the regular jobs. They know what to do. Meanwhile, you have some questions for the Monticello. Your mother's words ring in your ears. He's a creature, so he travels tunnels, shadows. Perhaps it would be best to seek him at night then, but somehow you don't think so. After all, it was day when you saw him the time, and a shadow needs light, just as secrets need talk. Him again in Machiavelli's tunnel, but you don't have time to ride out of the city today. The most shadowy place you can think of within a short walk of the workshop is the crypt beneath the cathedral. On your way there, you hear someone call your name, and you see Henry politely. Henrique's dilemma. We did so badly with this conversation last time, so let's try to do better this time, chat. Don't worry, he says cheerfully. I won't ask about my commission. I know you haven't had much time yet. You smile, relieved. You haven't made any progress in the machine yet. If only all our clients were so patient, you say. Yes, well, I suppose I'm learning patience in my exile. Exile, you exclaim. I thought you were here to study, Your Highness. He nods, his smile faded now. I am indeed here to study. I shouldn't call it exile. My father wants me to become a bishop, but it is frustrating to be so far away from home. My father is the king, but he faces challenges from all sides. He had to defeat an army led by his half-brother and the Portuguese. He stops. My father walks the edge of a knife every day, and I wish I were there. He glances off to one side, and a few young men lounging, staring at you, his bodyguards, here to protect him certainly, but perhaps also to report to his father. You might be able to impress him by making him feel better about his situation. There's a trick that finds alchemy and soothsaying that could show him what's happening in Congo now. Or you could try to reason with him about his situation, using the kind of cynical logic you've learned from Machiavelli. Perhaps what he really needs is a friendly ear, to accept the good in his situation. When he does go home, he'll be well-traveled and a well-rounded modern man. So, do we listen kindly and tell him there's good in his situation, which I think is goodwill? Do we argue this rationally? He shouldn't trust anyone and is right to be worried, which is reason. And I don't suggest it because our goodwill, I think, is higher. Or we could magic to show him his home, which will be a combined threshold of our very high saying and our not quite so high alchemy, which may in fact boost it up. We can try. 1, 2, or 3. Good, rational, or magic? What do we think, chat? 1, 2, or 3? Hopefully, Winter Fairy is back and can weigh in on this, but if not, Trav's double vote of magic will win the day. Nope. Winter Fairy's Trav's back down to 1 vote. Ha 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 ha. His temporary power has been relinquished. We will use magic. Would you like to see a glimpse of what's happening in Congo? He looks wary. You nod, for a moment or two only, a form of... What would you like? He considers. Show me my father. The spell is easy enough to create. You whisper to the moisture in the air, and it forms into a thin bubble, a globe of water. Then you whisper the name of the king of Congo, and Henrique exclaims as the image of his father appears. But just as Henrique steps in closer to get a better look, the bubble bursts. Ah, he says. That's it then. For now, you respond. The air won't do my bidding now for some time. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better look. I look forward to our next meeting, you say. Yes, perhaps when I come to collect the flying machine. You smile optimistically. I think that went much better this time around. As Henrique walks away, his bodyguards trailing after, you slip inside the door of the cathedral's crypt. In that vast space, the ceiling's impossibly high. The footsteps of other visitors are like a constant whisper. Down a narrow staircase before anyone can ask you any questions, and you're in the silent crypt. There are a few candles set before tombs of popes and architects, giving off a golden glow. But that is the only light here, and the shadows are deep and black behind each stone sarcophagus, behind every statue and thick column holding a great weight of the edifice above. With your hands and whisper his name, now that you know it. Monocielo. Nothing. How do you summon a ghost or a monster or whatever he is? Summoning's one of the few kinds of magic that the master forbade in the workshop. It's the thing that no reputable magician does anymore. Animators, with their necromantic origins, are particularly nervous about a hint of the dark arts sullying their reputation. And soothsayers, with their minds so attuned to the world of the invisible, are susceptible to possession and steer clear of any communication with the supernatural for that reason. Alchemists, for their part, don't fear the supernatural, but don't have much use for it either. We need answers, Winter Fairy. We don't know what Sheen does, at least in the story. Us as the audience who've been through the story before, absolutely know what the machine does already and why it's a terrible, terrible thing. But we, and in the story, as Principia of Firenze, have no clue what the machine is actually doing. So we're going to the source, essentially, and going, dude, what does your machine do? I can't figure this out. So you find yourself a magician of some talent to speak to a creature of shadow and legend, and having no idea how to do it. Not only do you need to make the creature appear, but ideally you want it to be kindly disposed to you when it does. You pace between the sarcophagi and think of 3 possible ways to bring the Monticello to you. First, you could simply invite him. Surely you're charming enough to persuade him to appear. You'd need a dose of confidence for that too. Second, come up with an incantation to summon him. You can fashion a summoning circle using a little alchemy with materials close to hand. Surely, if you perform enough odd rituals, one of them has to work. Or third, you could try to trick it. Animate the statues down here to speak their secrets. The Monticello couldn't resist that. So, 1, invite him. We'll use charm and confidence, neither of which we have much of anything in. 2, performing an incantation, drawing on our eccentric nature and alkyl. We actually do have eccentricity, but not necessarily the alchemy. However, the last time we made this decision, we still chose this option because we had the alchemy for it. We could probably pull it off again, to be quite frank. However, our best bet is him using our natural guile, which we have tons of, and our animation spell, which we also have a decent amount in. So, 1, 2, or 3, invite, perform, trick. Trav has started off the vote with 1 because he wants to fail. And Winter Fairy has decided to go with what we're actually good at and not do what we did last time, which is 3. And that means that unless anyone else weighs in, I have to choose. Because otherwise I will guilt somebody into Lurkers. Dear, dear lurkers, I love you to bits and pieces, but if one of you wants to weigh in, you may. Trav, don't give away the meta just because we've been through this before. We're supposed to be enjoying this. Yes, the writers do want the story to progress. Even if we fail, we likely will succeed regardless. But he will be angrier. We already have lost 5% of relationship with the Monticello. Do we really want more? That is the question. 1 would lose us more relationship with the Monticello and he'll be angrier and more difficult to deal with. 2 is likely to work. 3 absolutely will. Yeah. I mean, the way that Choice of Games writes stories, definitely even when you fail, you sort of can push story forward anyways. It's just bad things happen in the process. So, it looks like since we've had a flip, the 3s have it. All right, we will trick him. We did not do this last time, so this will be slightly different than last time. The statues and the faces carved into stone give you an idea. The Monticello likes secrets. What if the dead began to speak theirs? Surely he couldn't resist that. Of course, you can't really make the dead speak. Even the necromancers of old had a very difficult time doing that. It's one thing to animate a corpse, and it's one thing to divine the thoughts that were in its mind when it had one. But to put both of those together, a great deal of skill. You don't intend anything like that, but you do have to make this somewhat believable to get the Monticello's attention. First, you make the stones move. It involves waking them up, and stones don't like to wake up. You gather all your concentration, splay the fingers of both hands out, and begin to draw the particles of stone into new shapes. I was murdered, whispers a small stone lady, looking mournfully down at a lyre in her hands. Avenge my death. I wish I'd been murdered, an effigy mutters nearby, grasping his sword. Would have been much less embarrassing than what actually happened. You suppress a chuckle, sounding very convincing, and surely the Monticello won't be able to resist. The stone is moving smoothly thanks to your animation spell. Thins on the floor, though there is no change in the light anywhere. It grows and slides up a column until it is the shape of a man, robed in black, with a large hat. You stare at it for a moment, wondering how to begin a conversation with an entity who seems to communicate gestures and notes. But to your surprise, the Monticello speaks, in a voice like wind in dry leaves. You are a better magician even than I hoped, he says. I knew I was right to choose you. You nod greatly. The master's notebook contains instructions to build some kind of machine, you say. So it did. He promised to build it for me. Now you will me. So the Monticello asked for this. I don't even know what it does. If only you could see the shadow of that broad-brimmed hat. It's hard to talk to someone who is barely more than a silhouette. You do not need to know what it does. You need to build it. You shake your head. If you wanted someone who could simply nail some parts together, you would have brought it to a builder. You need a magician, which means this machine is complex, and it means that there could be decisions along the way, decisions that could affect what it does. If what it does is magical, then the consequences of error could be deadly. I won't build such a thing in my workshop without knowing what it does. Your workshop, the creature replies, mocking. How interesting. I wonder what Piero and Fiammetta would say to that. Perhaps I should deal with one of them instead. You can't play us off each other. I'll tell them all about it. The Monticello shakes his head so slowly that the broad-brimmed hat barely seems to move. He reaches out and puts a cold finger to your lips. You cannot breathe a word about the machine to anyone. This is magic you cannot break. You swat his hand away. None of us would do anything to put the workshop in danger. Then you must build the machine, the Monticello says. The machine means survival. It means that nothing happens in the shadows without me knowing. And the more I know, the more you will Principia di Firenze. You blink, remembering your mother's words. Secrets, you say, hushed and nearly breathless with horrible certainty. The machine has something to do with secrets. It finds them, collects them, like the boxes that used to be free piazza for people to write anonymous notes about their neighbor's affair. The Monticello is becoming less substantive at the moment, a mere silhouette now indeed, sliding down the rock like a rapidly drying stain. You will build it, or you will not. I lose patience. And with that, creepy. You walk, blinking back out into the daylight, and duck into the first dark alley you see. To be out of the crowds and noise and light, so you can think. Did the master know that the machine had something to do with secrets? What decision did he make? Everyone in Florence has secrets, and between the Medici and Savonarola, this city has can be weapons. Perhaps Machiavelli might have some advice for you. You stop in your tracks as you realize there's someone down at the end of the alley. Someone's. One of them is struggling, making muffled sounds of distress. The other has their hand over that person's mouth, and you catch the glint of a knife. Will you step in to help? If you do, you risk your health, and if you don't, you risk your reputation. So, of course, the criminal scum who prey on people and undermine order. Of course, God calls us to help people in stress. No, it's none of my business what happens in these alleys. Barging in would be imprudent. Or no, I'm due back at the workshop and order is not by citizens jumping into frays. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Order, faith, democracy. It's 4. And a humanitarianism. Actually, I'm not sure what number 3 is. Eccentricity, maybe? I don't know. 3 or 4. Quite honestly, I think the 4th one feeds into our democratic self. We are very democratic. We're not very early. It's working off of our traits. Definitely. One of them may be caution, actually. But this is where we stand. We are definitely not an ordered person. Winter Fairy says 1, which is the orderly choice. 2 is definitely the faith choice. 3, I'm not entirely certain. 4 is, I believe, democracy. Three might be caution. We have the vote started with 1. What does the rest of chat think? Please weigh in. I would love to know what you think. Trav says 4. You guys have left it up to me again. I'm going to go with 4. We know exactly what this is. We don't want to get involved. We made someone upset when we did last time. Florence order, not vigilantes. You can help most by respecting the law yourself. Keep your head down and try to get away without being noticed. Will we rely on our terrible dexterity to move quickly out of the alley? Will we rely on our terrible confidence to prevent anyone from bothering us? Or are we just eccentric and no one bothers an eccentric? 1, 2, or 3. Dexterity, confidence, eccentricity. Winter Fairy has said 3 because, well, we are eccentric. Does Trav agree? Or anyone else in chat, for that matter? 3. Oh, so 3. We are full on eccentric. You animate a fleeting cloud of white cabbage moths to flutter around your head and grumble your way back into the sunshine to take a breath. Silence. No one seems to have noticed your presence, or if they did, they took one look and chose to let you be. You step forward in relief. When you feel a hand on your shoulder, you turn to see Dangerous Clement. She's frowning. Skulking around while my associates do their work? You shake your head. Minding my own business. What business might that be? Shouldn't you be in the workshop at this hour? You pause, remembering your conversation about the master's death. You agree to share information with her, although you didn't know then what kind of information you'd find about the master. It's tempting to share your concerns about the Monticello with someone. It might be useful if you try to work against him, to know that other people know what's happening. Then again, if you might choose not to counter him, you should keep your cards close. This is an opportunity to move your relationship forward. I've learned some things since last we spoke, she says. What sort of things? Oh, I hear sorts of tidbits in line of work, Principia. I'm not sure any of them would interest a busy magician, especially not who has not come to see me. So, are we, like last time, interested in anything to do with Dangerous Clement as a signal that friendship isn't all we want? Are we interested in anything that might help us further the cause of humanism? Are we interested in any fascinating puzzle, or are we interested in anything that can help others? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Flirt, humanism, puzzle, others. What do we do, chat? What do we do? Winter Fairy says 4. We'd like to help others. Trav also says 4. It looks doing 4, which I think is goodwill. Pretty sure this is humanism, fascinating puzzle, and eccentricity maybe, but goodwill. We like to help others. I wonder that you lived in Florence all this time with that attitude. What have you learned, Dangerous? In my line of work, information always has a price, Princia. If you tell Dangerous what you've discovered about the Master's involvement with the Monticello, you might earn more of her trust, and she might reciprocate by telling you whatever she's discovered. She'll like you better if you work with her, but if you don't make sure to keep her on your side, she could turn against you. And if she knows about the machine when that happens, she might want to use it for her own purposes. Can you trust her? If you hedge as long as possible, she might lose some respect for you, but at least it would give you the chance to play your hand as you see fit. So, will we trade information with her as we promised? We did promise this once again. Um, have we decided that the situation is changing and so we won't share what we know because we change too, or are we going to play things close to the vest and decide as we go? Winter Fairy says one. Trust in the Queen of Thieves. I have no problem with that. We did time too, and I'm not going to push us not to make the same choice again. Dangerous Clement is, well, dangerous, as the word of her name says. Yeah, we definitely need the goodwill for sharing. We actually have already dropped her project, Trav. It was between the vault and the purse, and we went with the purse. So her project is not even on our desk right now. She's going to have to wait for her vault. Being good with her now will help us later. I've learned that one of the master's secret projects was you gulp, choking on the words. You can't mention the machine. The Monteciel won't let you. What's what? Dangerous asks. You shake your head, try to speak. Dangerous makes a sign of the horns with one hand. She's been in Italy long enough to pick up the local warding gestures. You know of what I can't speak, Dangerous? You whisper. She nods. I think I know what client's for, at least. My business is conducted in shadows and secrets, too. If the Monteciello's involved, it must have something to do with those things. That's what I think, too. I'm not sure yet, you say, and you feel the spell lift. You can speak of the Monteciello now that she has. How she managed to escape the spell herself is another mystery. She nods, thinking, sounds like it could be useful. To many people. You must be tempted to do whatever it is he asks. So, do we say, I don't know how it works yet, I'm not confident I can build it? Of course, I'm intrigued. I'm not a good enough liar to pretend otherwise, or a conversation with Dangerous is a battle of wits, one I seem to be losing. Because I believe the choice that we made last time. 1, 2, or 3, chat. Not confident, intrigued, or wits. How do we finish this very delicate conversation? When it says 1, and it's true, we don't quite know how it works yet and not confident enough for anything, much less building this thing. All right. We're going with 1. Clearly, the Monticello thinks you can. I'm not sure building it is a good idea for anyone, and the Monticello would make a powerful enemy. He would. But one can't live a life in Florence without making enemies. The trick is to make sure your enemies have enemies. You sound like you've been talking to Machiavelli. She laughs. Not likely. He hates me. You make your choices, Principia, as best you can, as seems best to you, and I'll make mine. I do appreciate you telling me, though, and to show my appreciation, I'll tell you a secret. More secrets, the currency of the realm, it seems. She steps closer to you, whispers, I've discovered something too, something that is beginning to make a little more sense given what you've told me. You both look around to see whether anyone is in earshot, but you seem to be alone in the street. The myrrh. The master was found in the Arno, she begins. Yes, I know. He's probably poisoned or had his throat cut. She shakes her head. Neither. There was not a mark on him, and his body shows no signs of any common poison. How do you know that? She just raises an eyebrow. Do you think I don't have my allies among the of this city? I have spoken to the man who examined the body before to the Medici, and I have spoken to the gravedigger. The physician noticed one strange thing, and the gravedigger another. The gravedigger noticed something a physician did not. Well, you can't blame him. The physician was examining the body on the ground, and even when he turned him over, he didn't notice this, because a cloud had gone over the sun. But the gravedigger saw it, or lack of it. The body cast no shadow. You give a low whistle. With no shadow, she continues, and you was somehow involved the Monteciello. More than coincidence, wouldn't you say? What was the thing the physician noticed? The master's mouth and throat were raw, irritated. The physician said it was something he'd seen once in Savron, Savron, bleh. I can never say this man's name. Arr. Savonarola, after he had been giving very long speeches for weeks at a time. But the master's was so much worse that it could not have been caused by anything like that, or so the physician thought. You say. Perhaps if the master had to talk against his will and forced to speak things that were painful to him, forced to say all his secrets and lose his life and his shadow in the process, you shiver. Dangerous knowledge. It seems the Monticello asked the master to work on the machine, and the master somehow died in the attempt or was killed. Perhaps he wasn't working quickly enough for the Monticello's liking. You have a few days left before the commissions are due. If you decide time to build the machine, that will mean taking your team of apprentices away from the commissions. Of course, before you even start the machine, you have to finish decoding the instructions for it in the notebook. Having the Monticello on your bad side might be even more terrifying than letting down the other clients who are expecting you to finish what the master started. But if you build the machine, that might give you enough power not to care, or it might buy you power. Surely all the master's clients would be a device for various reasons. So, are we determined to the bottom of this, which I believe is stubborn? Are we going to have to be very careful, which is cautious? Will we put our faith in God to get us through this, which is faith, or is this this is probably a tangled web gone wrong, which is humanity? Not entirely sure. Trav starts the vote with number 4. But 1, 2, 3, or 4. Determined, careful, faith, or good intentions. Possibly goodwill. Winterfairy agrees with 4. Therefore, the 4s have it. Probably a tangled web of good intentions gone wrong. Someone must know what's going on here, you say with as much cheer as you can muster. I don't control, Dangerous says, and I don't like that. Whatever the master, you begin and then stop, confused, as Dangerous dashes into the alley and is gone. The reason becomes clear in a moment, as a troop of self-important people comes striding down the road to you. The confraternity. Not for the first time, you wonder whether Dangerous has a little soothsaying talent. She seems to know they were coming. You don't know which of these people she's avoiding or why, but she usually has reasons for avoiding people. The half dozen people barreling towards you are the ones who will decide whether you become the master of the workshop, although they'll put a lot of stock in the opinions of the common people of Florence and of the apprentices who are working under you. They're all middle-aged or older, all of them masters of their arts. They seem to carry a dark cloud with them as they walk, but perhaps it's just the weight of their disagreements. The confraternity is an uneasy recent alliance. For a long time, artists and magicians had no single guild in Florence. Animators, because of the old association with necromancy, belonged to either the Physicians' Guild or the Curriers and Tanners. Painters, because they worked in pigments, were lumped in with the apothecaries as alchemists. Sculptors and designers, masons, swordsmiths, jewelers, soothsayers never managed to join a guild at all. Over the last few years, the confraternity has managed to pull all these disparate elements into a single body. The guilds of Florence are second in power only to the Medici, so a powerful organizing body is good for everyone. But it hasn't been easy to resolve the interests of groups who are not uniting together. You can see it in the somber but well-cut cloaks of the worthies headed your way now. You can see it in the grim line around their mouths. You bow your head respectfully as they approach. Principia de Firenze, booms a graybeard in a richly trimmed black cloak. His name is Filippo Avido. You've met him before. He's a scion of a family of salt merchants who occasionally helps to animate the city's water supply. Perhaps he's brusque because he's determined to prove he belongs in the confraternity of artisans and magicians. Or perhaps he was just born pompous. We are on our way to the workshop, where we expected to find you. How do we respond? I had business elsewhere, we say curtly. People should be free to do as they like without having to explain. I was on an errand. I am happy to tell you my whereabouts if necessary. Or, I'm glad then that we didn't miss each other after all, you say with a brilliant smile. I believe Misanthropy is the first one. The second one, and sure, the third one is Charm, which we do not have. Although the first one could be Eccentricity. 1, 2, or 3, chat. Elsewhere, Errand, or Glad. How do we respond to Filippo Avido and his pompous ass self? Two, we're no good at the other two. 2 is the consensus. Indeed, indeed. Of course, your business takes you outside the workshop from time to time. Please walk with us, says the smiling woman in a red gown, a painter. She gestures for you to fall in beside her, and she continues talking while you walk, trotting along with the group. This is a happy accident. We were just discussing a small problem that you might be able to help us with. Tomorrow evening, there will be a party at the Palazzo Gondi, home of Alfonso Orsini. All of the workshops will be represented, of course. A thin young luthier pipes up. But every workshop only gets 2 invitations, for the master and the master's guest. We don't want your workshop to be absent. Especially as we need to show the Medici that there is unity in Florence, that the confraternity is behind. The confraternity is behind them, rumbles the graybeard. But we also cannot invite 3 masters. It is not our dinner, and it would be rude, the painter explains. So as we have met you, may quietly tell you that you will be the workshop's representative at the dinner. You may bring one guest. Thank you, you say. Tell us, how are matters between you and Piero and Fiammetta? Asks another of the confraternity. That is why we are heading to the workshop, to make sure all is well. As you all turn the corner and the entrance to the workshop comes into view, you consider this question. You could try to undermine one or both rivals by giving the confraternity the impression that they're not doing well. If you do this clumsily, though, you'll succeed only in conveying an impression of your own mean-spiritedness. You need charm or authority to get away with it. Or you could try and impress the confraternity without undermining your colleagues by demonstrating that you're happy to work together. If you don't do this well enough, you'll come across as insincere. You'll need to show that you're confident, smart, or collective-minded enough to not feel threatened by your talented peers. So, do we try to undermine Piero and Fiammetta? Do we try to undermine Piero? Do we try to undermine Fiammetta? Or do we show that we're happy to work with Piero and Fiammetta? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Undermine both, undermine Piero, undermine Fiammetta, or happy to work with both. Yes, amusing we have the skills to undermine more than support. Now, we have been trying to up our relationship with Fiammetta this whole time. We could try to undermine just Piero. It will probably give us a hit to his relationship, but that one's the one that we have in the positives. Or we could just be, like last time, happy to work with everybody. Trav says undermine Piero. This will set us up on the path for either becoming the master ourselves or becoming the master with Fiammetta. But it's up to chat. I guess we're undermining Piero. Poor Piero. He actually likes us. You paste on a smile. You'll have to answer in a way that doesn't make it look as if you're trying to undermine your colleague. Will we use charm, which I do not suggest? Will we use guile, which we have? Or will we use our passion for order and authority? We're not an ordered person. I think we should use guile. But it's up to chat. 1, 2, or 3, charm, guile, order. We get on amazingly with Fiammetta. What about Piero? Oh, yes, he's there too. Exactly, Trav, exactly. It looks like we are lying out our teeth. Let's hope this works. To be frank, my friends, it's been a difficult time. Piero has taken the master's death very hard. It hasn't been easy for anyone. There, you've said nothing that isn't true, but you've managed to create a false impression all the same. They all nod sympathetically. The graybeard throws open the members of the confraternity in. The noise level gradually drops inside as everyone realizes there are visitors. Piero and Fiammetta approach, one covered in marble dust, and the other has a streak of charcoal on one cheek. You might have told us you were bringing such esteemed visitors, Principia, Piero says, wiping his fan with his leather apron. We met Principia on the way, the painter says with a smile. Forgive the intrusion. The committee is, of course, quite concerned with the events of the last few days. We wanted to see whether the workshop needed any help. We are here as neighbors and as friends. Yeah, right. But despite the smiles and the assurances, no one is under any illusions. This is an inspection. You and Piero and Fiammetta lead the visitors around the workshop, and you manage to meet Piero's eyes without a guilty expression. Even when the work isn't charged with a major commission, such as the fresco you've been painting, there's always work underway. The master believed that all work was noble, no matter how humble the client. He was a practical enough man to not do any work for free, but if someone could pay a decent rate, he'd send one of the apprentices onto it and hold the work to the same standard as anything created for a prince. So there's a series of barrels in one corner full of flour, where an alchemist is trying to come up with a way to stop weevils getting in, for a very frustrated local baker. There's a vast contraption of copper pipes stretching across the ceiling, an animated irrigation system for a local vineyard. Then most of which is enchanted only a little in the processes and materials. A sculpture of a local duke and his hunting dog rises half finished out of boards for a cathedral's triptych are being prepared. A painter is putting the last bits of shadow onto a classical scene. It takes the rest of the afternoon to demonstrate the plans and project dates, and by the time the visitors leave, you've lost the light. You and the apprentices clean everything up and make it all ready for tomorrow. An hour alone. You flop down on your bed and relish the prospect of an evening alone to relax. Perhaps you should take this opportunity to get a good night's sleep. Tempting, though, to get some practice in something else, to calm your mind or perhaps limber up your fingers and your body. So, we could get a good night's sleep. We could practice flute. We're not much of a musician, but it's good for the dexterity. We could practice some dagger maneuvers against an animated opponent, a need to be strong for self-defense. Or we could play a game of chess against an animated opponent and keep the brain sharp, which I believe is reason. So we have health, dexterity, strength, or reason. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Our health is not great. Our reason could go higher. Our dexterity could go higher. Our strength is our highest stat. Uh-oh, we've become stubborn. We've lost our adaptability. Everything else is... And we've become a little more ordered as well. But our reputation with the confraternity has gone up, as has the respect of the workshop, so we've made progress there. So, to up the strength, which means dagger maneuvers. Does Winterfairy agree that number 3 is the way to go? Remember, health, dexterity, strength, reason. We are going with the strong. Strong it will be. We practice dagger maneuvers, animated opponent. The need to be strong for self-defense is, well, strong. You pull your simple knife off your belt and imagine it is opponent with crossguard, deadly and gorgeous. Daggers are the weapons of choice in the streets of Florence. Some are beautifully patterned, folded, or Damascus steel. Some are encrusted with jewels. Some are hither things. All are sharp. You raise your arm, the knife an extension of your body. You animate the blanket from your bed, and it rises into a shape something like a human being. You thrust the knife high, twist around the arm, down to the hip, up through the ribs. Before long, your muscles are tired, and your blanket is full of holes. But a little alchemy repairs them, and you fall onto your bed. You sleep deeply until the morning comes and brings more work, a dinner party, and choices. Chapter 6. Dinner with the Medici. It is once again Friday, and we are having dinner with the Medici. Seems we're always having dinner with them on a Friday. So, our health is the same as it was, as is all of this stuff. We finished Alfonsina Orsini's weapon. Soothsaying, these have not really changed. Our strength is nice. Quite 70 plus, but it is nice. We've made progress in some ways. Yes, we're pretty good at this late stage, and the story is terrible. So here we are, dinner with the Medici. The first thing is to work on the fresco. You meet Andrea at the workshop where they're carrying a bag with 2 fresh loaves and something in a stoneware bottle. You've got a satchel with some charcoal and a few other supplies. Food, you say with a rueful grin. I knew I forgot something. You've been busy, Andrea replies. That's why I brought enough for 2. Do we need an apprentice to help with the paints today? You shake your head. I want to start on the next panel, but it be sketched first. So today will be the drawing. We can get a lot of work in without much preparation, and then get back here so I can work on the commissions. And I'm modeling for a bust of Cicero, Andrea says. Amazing how your face can be so many faces, you say. Not like mine. I don't envy the painter who tries to capture the depth of your eyes, Andrea says, like trying to paint the night. Your face must be all over Italy by now. My body, too, they smile, and not just Italy. And you don't find that unnerving? Not really. Once a face is in a painting, it's not models anymore. The master told me that Lucrezia de Medici posed as the baby Jesus. And the mention of a Medici calls to mind the dinner you have to attend later today. I said you should bring one guest, but bringing only Piero or Olga would cause contention. Giulia anyway, but it might be nice to have her at your side. Andrea would love it. Dangerou would love it even more, although she'd probably have to attend in a mask or a veil. This could be a chance to get closer to someone you find attractive. So, who do we take, chat? Andrea, Giulia, Dangerous, which we took the last time, Fiammetta, or Piero? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? You tell me, chat. Who will it be? The person we have chose to romance the most is Fiammetta, as a reminder. It would definitely have a relationship with Fiammetta. Yeah, we should have sided with Fiammetta early on, and we didn't. So this is the next time we can benefit from raising that. So let's invite Fiammetta and hope it goes well. You decide quietly later and invite her. The dinner will be a chance to impress the Medici and the confraternity. Both are essential. The confraternity will decide who will be the next master, and the Medici family, well, it has a veto over everything. Stay on their good side and you'll find success. Get on their bad side and you could be exiled from Florence. This dinner is not merely a pleasant version. In the meantime, you and Andrea have work to do on the fresco, which is one of the main ways you can convince the people of Florence that you deserve to be the master of the workshop. You and Andrea around a corner and see a knot of people in front of the half-finished fresco. Their voices sound drunk, their laughter unhinged, and as you hear a crack and a bang, you see a foot swing towards the wall. You realize with a sickening skipped heartbeat that they are destroying the fresco. Your fresco. If we are bold enough, we can catch them off guard and tackle one. We can yell at them. They have no idea what kind of ire we can unleash. Or we can keep ourselves from interfering for a moment and make a plan, which is what we tried last time, and it did not work. 1, 2, or 3. Bold, boldness, misanthropy, or plan. 1. Winterberry starts off the vote with 1. Does Trav agree? Does the rest of chat agree? Question. Not at all of them. Couldn't we just be strong and imposing? I'll take one. um, yeah, we don't really have bold, but we do have to tackle a guard, so this could be bold plus strength. Yelling at them could also be like misanthropy plus confidence. And the plan probably reason and something else. I actually think this is, but you turn to Andrea. I'm going to rush at them, you whisper. You glance around for something to animate, a weapon. There's your knife in your belt, but flying knives can be unpredictable at the best of times, and you don't want to injure her. After some consideration, you animate a whirl of dust off the cobbled street and fling it in their faces. But they're already aware of you. One of them has a rock in his hand. Duck, Andrea, you say, but the rock isn't aimed at either of you. Or rather, it is aimed at a version of Andrea on the wall. Crashes into your beautiful painting, and then the thugs saunter off, laughing, while Andrea hurls curses at them. You weren't quick enough. Yep, we failed that. The fresco has a large hole in the middle of it. Andrea borrows a bucket and some plaster, and with a little alchemy, you repair the hole and redo the painting. But you've lost a lot of time, and you won't make as much progress in the fresco today as you'd hoped. I wonder why they were here, you say. Those goons? Andrea asks. I suspect wine had something to do with early in the day for it, but they've probably been drinking all night. Oh, they were definitely drunk, but why here? Why my fresco? You shrug. Perhaps it's just bad luck. The next section of the fresco is a group of ball players all tangled together. Somehow you have to convey the motion and confusion of the crowd without losing the viewer's gaze in a chaotic mess. Andrea is here to model all of the players. They'll hold up an arm for one and stretch a leg out for another. Added. You have a rolled up sketch in your satchel, but the final drawing and the sketch are never the same. Still, it gives you a place to begin. Andrea holds the intermediary sheet of charcoal coated, and you carefully put your drawing over top and trace lines with the stylus. When you pull both papers away, there's a ghost of a drawing on the plaster. But for this part of the scene, everything depends on the detail. Which lines do you emphasize? How do you convey light and motion and spirit? Do we constantly make new decisions, changing our view of the painting as we work? Do we rely on humanistic principles of good design to guide us, or do we let the spirit move me? We only answer to art. Trav says 2. Winterfairy says 2. We're going humanistic. This works. In the library, there's a copy of a book that was a few years ago. You spent hours at its title page. The words Divina Proportione, brilliant red across the top, and the letters arranged in a triangular formation beneath. That was your introduction to Luca Pacioli, a friend of Leonardo's, whose treatises on magic, mathematics, accounting, and art have had an enormous effect on every workshop in Italy. Pacioli is a Franciscan friar. Blah, blah, blah. Cannot read, apparently. I've lost the ability. I'm sorry, chat. We will try to make it better. And he has shown that religious belief does not have to take the form of unquestioning faith. God can be in a rectangle. The proportions that seem beautiful to the eye are those that recall the principles of the divine. They are simple, balanced, ineffable. You apply these proportions as if they're an alphabet you know by heart, and your drawing comes to life. We finished the fresco early. Heck yeah, we got a new achievement, guys. Good job, chat. He shines forth indeed. You stand back and survey the scene on the wall. The painting seems to come to life, and only part of that is the animation. A scene of struggle and joy, of competence and competition. It stands bright and fresh on the plaster, and the fresco is complete at last. Andrea claps on the back. Well done! Do you like it? It's wonderful to see myself in so many pictures, although no one will ever know that they're all me in some way. I think I'll see it in my dreams. From Andrea, that's a compliment. The painter seems not only to be alive in some deep manner of its own, something more than the magic of the spell you put into it. It gives life to the city too. This is a gift to the people, and as you prepare to sign your name in the still soft plaster, you know that the people will love you for it. A few generations ago, artists attached to a workshop would have been less likely to sign their work at all, since everything was a joint effort. There is still some of that spirit in the workshop, though your generation also wants to celebrate the individual. Every piece that leaves the workshop bears its mark. A squat isosceles triangle pointing upwards, a reference to the pediment of the nearby cathedral. You paint that triangle at the bottom right of the. Above it, you will leave your own mark as an individual. How do we sign this painting? Is it an illegible but recognizable scrawl, our initials, or a symbol? Trav says initials. Does the rest of chat agree? The twos, our initials. With bold strokes, you write the letter P and then a tiny D and a large F. All of Florence knows what that stands Principia di Firenze. Now the people of your city will know that you have created this for them, this celebration of human excellence, of community and competition, of indomitable fortitude, this celebration of Florence. You take your leave of Andrea, thanking them for their help on the fresco. You open the door to the workshop and find Fiammetta working with Team Moss on a water clock. It's a huge, complex device meant to chime through sympathetic magic whenever a delivery arrives at its destination. If it works, it will reduce fraud and theft throughout Italy, but in parts, and at the moment, Fiammetta is bodily trying to wrench one of them into another one. Need some, Principia, she says, groaning a bit with the strain. You nod. The confraternity wants us to show our face at a Medici dinner tonight, to reassure everyone that the workshop is doing well despite everything. There's only an invitation for two, though. Will you come with me? She lets the big wooden gear slip out of her hands, and it bangs against the scaffolding, reverberating throughout the workshop. God's teeth! Yes, of course I will, but Piero won't like it. You shrug. There's nothing I can do about that. We need to show a presence, and there's no one I'd rather have at my side than you. It's good for the Meta nods. All right. I'll leave work a little early today to get myself cleaned up and meet you at a room at the Vespers bell. Thank you, Fiammetta, you say, and walk past a so far unsuspecting Piero, who is staring somberly at a pile of safety chains he's enchanting for construction cranes. Time to meet Team Mandrake so you can get them started on the day's work. They're a solid team, and you could just check in on they're carrying on with the workshop's other projects, while you go off and finish decoding the pages in the master's notebook that contain the instructions to build the machine. You can't build it until those pages are decoded, if you decide to build it at all. But if you do that, you'll lose progress on the commissions. Angelo, Francesca, and Luigi are good apprentices, but they can't move ahead without supervision on projects as difficult and important as these commissions. Your time is finite, and there's no way you build the machine and complete all three of your planned commissions. You could start on the purse. You finish the weapon. You could begin on the flying machine. So, the purse, the flying machine, or decoding. 1, 2, or 3. Travis started off with the flappy thing. 2. Who else in chat wants to weigh in on what we do next? 1, 2, or 3. Purse, flying machine, decoding. Winter Fairy agrees. We will begin on the flying machine. An animator has tried flying, even if just a little bit. Who wouldn't? But it usually is just a little bit, because animation can be unpredictable. It is, as the word suggests, imparting life to an object, even if temporarily. And holding on to a temporarily nearly alive thing is unnerving when you're several feet off the ground. But the big reason why it's only a little is that animation, like all magic, breaks down over time. And if the magician is constantly refreshing the spell while they're holding on to the thing they're animating, they risk exhaustion. And if exhaustion causes them to lose focus, well, it's a short and dramatic. So the trick is making it doesn't require a magician to operate it, and one that can hold on to the magic for a long time. Ideally, one that could have its magic refreshed by simply replacing one part. You already know how to store mechanical engine energy with a spring. If you could put the animation enchantment on that spring, you could control the length of time it lasted and refresh it easily. The type of spring that works a clock would do the trick. So you just need a mainspring barrel, a steel chain, and a fusee. The conical barrel that holds one end of the chain compensates with its shape for the change in tension as the mainspring winds down. These parts are too complex to order in the time you have, so you'll have to find one that you can eviscerate. The Piazza Santa Trinita hasn't worked in months, suggests Luigi. The clock tower. You walk to the little triangular piazza with Luigi, Francesca, and Angelo. It's true, the century old clock high up on stone wall has been stuck at a few minutes past midnight forever, because the stone wall belongs to a palace owned by one of the Medici enemies. The palace is vacant now because its owner fled. Cardinal Giovanni has been trying to seize the palace and give it to one of his favorites, but it's tied up in legal disputes because in Florence, lawyers are the only people with more power than politicians. So the clock is stopped. You focus and try a little animation, but there's so much rust on the outside that the clock face just groans alarmingly. You'll have to get up there and do it by hand. Technically, you want to borrow the mainspring and fusee, not steal it. You don't have time to make a replacement now, before the commissions are due, but once you complete the flying machine for Henrique, if all goes well, you'll have plenty of time to make replacement workings for the clock and put them inside before anyone is the wiser. You're not sure that argument would matter to anyone who saw you pulling the guts out of the clock, though. You'll have to work quickly and quietly, or risk losing some of the respect of the townspeople. So, are we strong so we let Luigi onto our shoulders to open the clock? Remember, he's the locksmith. Are we good with our hands so we'll climb onto Luigi's shoulders and open but don't have the dexterity? Or are we bold enough to a bang and a yank and it's done? I don't believe we have the boldness either. Check. So, strength, nice. Dexterity, neutral. Boldness, 1, 2, or 3. Strong, hands, bold. Winter Fairy starts off the vote with 1 because we are Le Strunk and it is nice. Anyone else agree or disagree? One, of course. We can lift him easily, yes. Luigi, hoist. Luigi scrambles up and scrapes the rust off the clock face. It comes free with a creak. Can you get the workings out, you ask? Almost there, he replies. Just a moment. You bear up and keep him steady. There, done. Luigi scrambles down with 2 big cylinders and a metal chain in his hand. At last. And no one saw you. Let's get out of here, you hiss, and the 4 of you leave the piazza and head back to the workshop. Easy peasy Japanesey. You have the workings for the magical spring. Now all you need is the wood and leather chain. The better the thing flies on its own, the less the magic you'll have to use and the longer it will last. A 2-person machine will be bigger and use 18 soldi worth of material to use up less of the supplies in the storeroom. A smaller machine will need less, and it'll only cost 8 soldi, but Henrique might like it less. The storeroom has leather and wood enough for either size, but if you use them, the storeroom will be empty. So, workshop supplies large, pay large, borrow large. Supplies small, small, go small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. What do we make for Henrique of the Congo? Supplies small, or supplies large, which is 1, pay large, which is 2, borrow large, which is 3. Supplies small, which is 4, pay small, which is 5, or borrow small, which is 6. We have enough money to pay outright for a large machine. We went small with the least expensive route on the weapon. We could go the least expensive route on the flying machine, which would be paying for the small machine. Or we could borrow and be in debt. And when we get paid for finishing this thing, you know, pay the debt. Hopefully, possibly. One can cross our fingers. So, chat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do we do? Pay large, borrow large. Supplies small, pay small, borrow small. Winter Fairy wants to go all out for a large machine. Trav says borrow for a small one. He should be happy that it flies at all. Nobody has cracked flight. Not good enough. Well, find someone else to do it better. um I personally would say pay for a small machine outright. That would be my choice. And seeing as you guys are not in, there's no consensus here. I'm gonna go with my choice. I'm gonna pay for the materials for a small machine. That should be good enough. The carpenter sells you some bits of wood, mostly odds and ends, but he charges the most for the long straight pieces. The nearest tanner has of leather that are the right size. Some of them seem to have been repurposed, probably from the cloaks and saddles of down on their luck noblemen. They're still strong and smooth and will do nicely. You have everything you need to start building a machine that can fly. Now you just have to design the thing. The day is ending, and you only have a little while to get dressed before the dinner. You could use your alchemical skills to create something beautiful to wear. Like all alchemical creations that depend on the will of the magician, it will eventually fall apart, and it will require a bit of focus to keep it up all evening, which means you'll be more tired. Or you could run down to the tailor and buy something, but that will set you back 3 lira, or 60 soldi. Your appearance is one element that could determine how the Medici judge you, but it's not the only one. We do not have the lira um, to get a new outfit. We could just wear our best, cleanest clothes, but that will not make the best impression on the Medici, who we do need to impress. We could go with what we did last time and use our chemical skill, but it will cost us health. However, our health is not so terrible that we would die from it. Our alchemy is not so great that it will be necessarily probably our best bet, to be quite frank. It is what we did last time, however, so if we try something new, we could just wear our best, cleanest clothes and have Fiametta be angry with us. Winter Fairy says 3, though. Trav, we didn't have enough money before anyway. I knew going into paying for it, if we'd borrowed, we would not have had enough money. The only way that we would have enough money for this to buy a new set of clothes is taking the money from Giovanni de Medici in the very early chapters. So we didn't take those 3 florins. There, we did not have the money regardless, even if we borrowed all the way through. So we will use our alchemical skill and we will just get tired. You rummage in a drawer of your chest and find a vial of old rosewater, an incant or two, and it's ready. Lay out a stained smock, some torn hose, and a painter's cap on your bed. Stop the top of the vial loosely with your fingers and use all your concentration. Sprinkle the rosewater on the clothing until it transforms into any of the following. We could have a fine embroidered linen tunic the exact color of our eyes, or rather colors, as it caps every hue in our iris. This was the choice we made last time. A French hood of black velvet with ever-shifting patterns of embroidery on the band and a matching gown, but the French are not allies to Florence in this time, and in fact, I would not suggest this. A quilted satin doublet embroidered with twisting moving vines over slashed brown trunk hose, which would be lovely. A silk kirtle with a silk gown over top and a silk hood, all of which change color according to our mood. I would not want to give our mood away, to be quite frank. A white veil, green silk gown with a fine lace capulet that makes us smell like happiness. That could go over quite well. Or a decorated leather jerkin and a pale overgown with sleeves that make us look taller. Indeed, the two would also be the exact color of our eyes because eyes are black, black as our soul, or some to such event. Honestly, I don't really think one or two is very smart. I also do not believe the color changing to our mood silk kirtle is very smart either. Um, we could make ourselves taller. I kind of like the one that makes us smell like happiness. That's my pick. It's number 5. But chat has decided 6. We're going with 6. We're going to be tall today. Let's do it. As you finish getting dressed in your room, there's a knock at the door. You open it to see Fiametta, dressed in a red velvet gown, fitted at the bodice but loose and open in the slash to linen beneath. You say something to put her at ease. This is a big step for you and me, and I'm usually more cautious. You look astonishing, sincerely, blushing a little. Anxious about dining with the Medici, I admit. I'm more comfortable with ordinary people. You look good, I say with a friendly smile. Thank you for doing this. We're going to have a wonderful time, I say. We deserve a place at this table if anyone does. Honestly, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Honestly, 5 might appeal to Fiametta the most. Although, telling her she looks astonishing and blushing, definitely. We are not actually cautious. We're not actually bold either. So 1 could work, but chat has gone with 2. You look astonishing. Let's hope that she is flattered enough to like. In a good way? Fiametta asks with a grin. Definitely. Just as you and Fiametta pass by the door of the workshop, you nearly run into Piero, who's coming out with a distracted look on his face. You are, he says, and looks you up and down, takes in your clothes and the fact that the two of you are obviously walking somewhere together. Say hello to the Medici for me, he says with a clouded expression, and walks roughly past you. You call after him, but he ignores you. Uh-oh, dissension in the ranks. From the workshop in the Piazza di Santa Maria Novella to the Palazzo Gondi, a walk of about 5 minutes through the busiest streets in Florence. The lamps are lit outside the doors of the fine houses and the closing. People laugh and gamble through the streets on their way to taverns and parties. It's one of those beautiful autumn evenings when the world seems caught in amber. Like most of the best houses in Florence, the Palazzo Gondi is an imposing stone block, a rectangle around a courtyard. The outside is gray, the arched windows showing only glimpses of the lamplight and brocade and colored glass within. You give your name to the guard at the door and follow a line of wealthy people up the grand staircase. There's noisy conversation, and somewhere a viol plays softly. At the doorway at the top, you're greeted by Alfonsina Orsini, who's wearing a gown of shimmering gold with a gold net in her hair. Principia, she greets you, kissing your cheek. Thank you for coming at this difficult time. Tell me, how is my commission coming? You'll be able to see it soon, you say honestly. She claps her hands once. Good, good. And Fiametta Mazze, I've long waited to get to know you better, so I'm glad you've come. Fiametta blushes. Thank you, my lady. I'm an admirer. Alfonsina puts her head to one side. It's like watching two tigers circle one another. You're too kind. I look forward to having more time to talk later. There are some seats near the fireplace. You thank her and walk to the table as Fiametta fidgets with her thumb and forefinger and looks around as if she's expecting an attack. Pass the bread. 2 walls of the room are covered with intricate red and gold tapestries showing scenes from the outer wall is punctuated with 5 arched windows with glass cut like diamond. Opposite it is a wood panel wall broken by an enormous fireplace, with a fire set in it, although the night is not cold. There are two tables facing each other across an open expanse of carpet. Each table has guests seated only on side, so that they can see to those at the other table. Where do we take an empty seat? Cardinal Giovanni de Medici himself, Lucrezia de Medici, Judah Abravanel, or Henrique of Congo? 4? We're working on his thing. We are. This is the Medici party. Sitting next to any of the Medici will help us possibly gain Medici favor. I'm not entirely certain on that. It really depends on how things go next. Judah Abravanel and Henrique of Congo both have a bit of relationship with us. In fact, I think everyone but Giovanni is over 50%. So here we have Giovanni at 50%, Lucrezia at 50%, Henrique of the Congo at 55, and Judah Leon Abravanel at 55. Have a strong respect for the people of Florence, and the confraternity and the respect of the workshop are a little bit up. We could sit next to Henrique. We'll probably have to do something about his commission. We are working on it. We are not working on Judah's. We are planning possibly to work Crezia's. The Cardinal does not have a secret commission with us. He also would not mind us sitting next to him. Actually, did we get a boost from Orsini? We did. She's almost solidly liking us right now. Actually, Dangerous solidly likes us as well. So we're okay on that end. Winter Fairy says 1. Sit next to the Cardinal. Trav says 4. Henry. This is literally the only other time that we have to get the Cardinal Giovanni de Medici to like us. I honestly think that Winter Fairy is the correct play here. I'm going for it. You take your place next to the Cardinal, who smiles politely at you. Serving boys in the Medici livery walk between the tables. They pour wine and hold out heaping platters of food for each guest to take what they like. Everyone carries a cadena, a small wooden box for their own personal knife and fork. You and Fiammetta take yours out and open them, removing silver forks from velvet linings. Everything is dazzling, from the Venetian blue glass goblet to the pearls and the diamonds in the caps and hoods of the wealthiest people in Florence. Members of the confraternity are here, scattered along the two tables, their eyes gleaming hard, appraising. Everything is business in the city, especially pleasure. Anchovies, olives, bread, cheese, and meat pies go by. You take a few things, looking around to make sure you don't do anything wrong. It's not exactly what I'm used to, you whisper conspiratorially to Fiammetta. No, anyone can learn how to pretend to belong. Everyone's pretend performance. It's all sprezzatura. Fiammetta takes no prisoners, as usual. She skewered everyone here with a few words, stripped them bare of their pretense. Perhaps Fiammetta is right about sprezzatura, that all-important quality for any courtier. A careful nonchalance, an ability to make the difficult look effortless. A mask of ironic detachment, to attract admiration without seeming to try. Around you. Perhaps you can impress Giovanni with your sprezzatura tonight. Your stylish clothing gives you part of the way there. Which qualities can you use to your advantage? Our intelligence and sincere disdain for our fellow humans. Our soothsaying and our charm, or our ability to adapt to any circumstance with confidence? Well, crap. Soothsaying is the highest, but our charm is the lowest. Adaptability and confidence are both low. So, soothsaying, fantastic. Reasoning, not great. Confidence, worse. Adaptability has become very, very low. Our charm is also low. Our miscellany is low. We're kind of screwed here. So, intelligence and sincere disdain for fellow humans, soothsaying and charm, or adaptability and confidence? Probably 2, which will trash our eccentricity. Yep. 3 might actually be a higher combined total. Maybe. Um Yikes. What are we doing, chat? What are we doing? I mean, I'd have Trav do the math here. Whatever Trav decides, our charm is so very, very low. It is. It is. It will. But our soothsaying is quite high. It's in fact, I think the highest of one of maybe. Actually no. The highest stat we have is strength. Second highest is soothsaying because it's 67 versus 69. Perhaps our soothsaying can cover us, but we don't have the charm. My gut says number 1, but 3 actually might be the best. Okay. So, soothsaying 67. Confidence 42. Charm is 33. So 67 plus 33. Um that's confidence is 42, and what is the other one? Adaptability, and then intelligence and misanthropy, I think. So reasoning is 54, misanthropy is 38, confidence is 42, and adaptability is 49. All right, Winter Fairy, be safe getting to the mailbox and back. Those are the numbers. Assuming I have figured out this one. So it's soothsaying plus charm. Reasoning plus misanthropy. Confidence plus adaptability. Two is our highest tool. Oh, jeez. Yep, I had a feeling that the soothsaying would save us. So we're going with 2. Soothsaying and charm. And it's probably going to trash our eccentricity, but here we go. The beginnings of dinners are always a little nerve-wracking, you say, reading the mood of the crowd. Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one, says a man with a red face and a tight collar. I hope the food will be good, you say, and you noticed a few cringes. Perhaps you shouldn't have said that aloud. Your chance comes when Giovanni examines the platters of fruit on offer from the nearest servant and leans over to you. Fruit is so deceptive. It seems the one that will look the best, the ones that look the best, the sourest, or have some terrible texture. I'd stay away from the grapes and try the quince, you say nonchalantly. Giovanni smiles. Thank you. How fortunate that I find myself beside you this evening. I love all fruit, Fiammetta says, but grapes are my favorite. They're all so different in their flavors, as though they've recorded every fact of the season in which they grew and transmuted it into a particular taste, as though the vines are alchemists. There's some sort of commotion in the corridor outside the dining room, and several servants down their trays and rush out. Alfonsina is on her feet, and several courtiers have their hands on their knives. When someone bursts through a tangle of guards and into the room in a hazy cloud that smells familiar, like burning holly leaves and hound's tongue, and you realize, just before the clouds clear, who it must be. Your mother. So, let us see survive. Actually, it did not change anything about our eccentricity, but Giovanni de Medici slightly likes us slightly more. So that did actually help us. Probably would have been higher if we had been charm and soothsaying, but that's okay. We did it, guys. We impressed him a little bit. Whew. An uninvited guest. You dash into the foul-smelling cloud and pull Stella back into the corridor and into a garderobe. A guard robe, putting a locking spell on door. It won't hold. What in God's name are you doing here? Do we growl? We put a finger to our lips and whisper, "Be careful, please," or "This can't be happening. I was having dinner. You weren't invited." How mean are we to our mother? 1, 2, or 3. Faith, caution, or boldness. Actually, misanthropy. Faith, caution, or misanthropy. I actually think caution is the best idea here. So 1, 2, or 3, chat. 2, polite and draws less attention too. Yes. Hushing her quickly. Principia, she greets you brightly, as though she had just run into you on the street. What is I didn't know you'd be here. Suppose you have to do this sort of thing now. Are you remembering to? Mother, you can't be here. And you certainly can't rush past the guards. What is going on? A shadow is over her face. I can't take any more of this, Principia. The bullies. I have to stop it at the source. Stop what? We don't have a lot of time to chat. Giuliano de Medici. He's in there, isn't he? Giuliano is, in name, the leader of the Republic of Florence. He's the younger brother to Giovanni and Lucrezia, and he tends to do as they tell him. Yes, of course, this is a Medici dinner. He's a Medici. A snake. He's got an illegitimate son by Pacifia Brandano, and he won't stop pestering her. He's got it in his head that the child might not be his, because he's heard from God knows where that Leonardo painted her portrait, and then painted over it with some other woman's face. He didn't commission the portrait, the skinflint. So who did? It's eating away at him. He knows that Pacifica came to me for readings, for reassurance, when she was expecting a child. He wants me to tell him all his mistress's secrets, and that I refuse to do. You rub your head. No one can budge Stella from position when it's a matter of principle. But the Medici control everything in Florence, and you have to get her out of here. But can you do it without angering her? You hear Alfonsina Orsini's voice in the corridor outside, demanding to know what's going on. Oh boy, guys. It would be unkind to embarrass her by pretending not to know her. It will anger your mother, and if you can't pull off the lie, you risk also angering your host, Alfonsina. But you'll please Alfonsina if you manage it. If you show her kindness and stand up for her, you'll anger Alfonsina. And if you don't show you're just as stubborn as your mother, you risk angering Stella too. But you'll please if it works. Or you could simply animate her shoes and force her to leave that way. If you pull it off, you could manage to make her think someone else is doing it, staying on the good side of both her and Alfonsina. But that would be very difficult and requires a lot of animation skill. The door nearly guard who's been trying to force the lock. He nearly succeeded. He must have a little skill. So, do we certainly stand up for Stella's right to be here? Do we pretend you don't know her? Or are we confident we can pull the tricky animation of her shoes? Well, we have animation. It's almost decent. We do have guile as well. We might be able to pull off the shoes. Might. We are a tiny bit stubborn. And our mother does love us. We're also a liar. And we're also cautious. Now, what do we do, chat? What do we do? Stubborn, pretend, animation. 1, 2, or 3. Our guile is just slightly higher than our animation by a percentage. Our stubbornness is actually the lowest of this. I honestly, but we should try the animation trick, Trav. I know that we don't have the 70+% that we probably need for it, but I don't know, we might be able to pull it off. I actually think that this is like a trait plus stat situation that I just don't quite know. I could be wrong. Sure, we're bad at all of these and should not be allowed out in public. I guess we're going with the animation trick. Good luck to us. Cross your fingers, chat. You lean casually against the door frame and start to animate two things at once: the shoes on Stella's feet and the gloves of the guard who was working on the lock. The guard looks slightly confused as his hands start waving around. Stella would have noticed the guard had some animation skill, and you hope she'll be too distracted by her soothsaying ability to determine that you're the one doing all this. Thank you for cornering her, Alphonsine to you. It seems my guard can manage her from here. He starts to say something, then thinks better of it. Stella looks back. This isn't over. I wonder who she is and what she wants, Alfonsina says. You shrug as you keep both animation spells going. Who knows? People crowd the corridor, in the confraternity and the ordinary people who serve at the table and guard the doors in this house. But they all make way for Lazia de Medici, who stands beside her sister-in-law and looks at the departing figure of your mother. Did that woman need something? Lazia asks. She needed to stop trespassing, Alfonsina answers with a sharp smile. Then everyone starts arguing about what just happened, what they saw, and what it all means. If you appeal to the social hierarchy, the Medici will admire you, but the common people won't. And if you're unconvincing, you could lose ground with the confraternity too. If you can appeal to the right of the common people, the servants and guards will take your side, but you'll lose ground with the Medici and could lose the confraternity too. Just enough to stay non-committal. You can give everyone a slight impression that you're on their side, but you'll do wrong and you'll lose a little ground with all three groups. So, we already have a pretty solid stand. We could push it higher, but the Medici will not like us. And possibly not the confraternity too. We could appeal to the virtues of strict social order and the Medici to like us more, possibly also the confraternity, but we will take a hit to the people's love of us. Or we can try to stay out of this if we're cautious enough. We are not cautious enough. Our caution is only slight. Mom loves us a little less, but I don't think she caught on. What do we do, chat? Yeah, failure means we lose something with everyone, so we need to succeed each case. May we as well pick one. The Medici would be annoyed regardless. It's fair. I mean, to be fair, we could probably appeal to the virtues of strict social order and be okay. I believe that we'll have a choice of how we deal with this. We might be able to do the guile option. I believe there's like 2 if we can get away with it. I honestly almost want to try 3. I almost want to try to see if we can stay out of it and pull it off. But chat has said 2, so we will appeal to the virtues of strict social order. When people think they can just barge in everywhere, we get chaos, you murmur. Some courtiers around nod vigorously, but surely it is a sign of the love people hold for the Medici they can approach, says an earnest young woman. Well, of course, a government has to be open to its people, you admit. The Medici cousin nearby frowns at you, so do some members of the confraternity. The crowd finally begins to thin, and you find Fiammetta just inside the dining room. Is that your mother I saw? You seem upset. Is everything all right? It's all right now, you say, although it's hard to have much faith that they'll be all right. Their secrets can be so valuable and so dangerous. We've been kind of neutral on the whole caution boldness thing. We're still fairly neutral on it. And the Monticello wants you to build a machine that has something to do with secrets. Could be more than just your own livelihood at stake. So you say, but your eyes tell a different story. Let's get some air, you suggest, and Fiammetta leads you out to a balcony that overlooks a narrow, quiet street. Well, this has been a memorable evening, Fiammetta says with a little laugh. Do you feel that we have done your duty for the workshop? It wasn't only about duty, you respond with a smile. So, how do we charm our dear Fiammetta? Do we say that we were hoping for a moment like this, one where we could ask for a kiss? Do we decide to joke and say it was about the free food? Do we say it was a chance to spend some time with her as our friend? Or do we just like parties and like Florence, the good, the bad, and the strange? This is our one and only chance to romance Fiammetta. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Kiss, joke, friend, party. Winter Fairy starts off the vote with 1 sounds utterly disastrous. Pretty sure she doesn't like us enough, but let's try it. Well, we're going to flirt anyway. Can we kiss you? Can we kiss you? She laughs, and for a moment you're left wondering whether she's laughing at you. But then she leans her head close to yours and kisses you softly and briefly. Score! We did it, chat. We kissed the girl. It isn't until you're home and alone in your bed that you feel you can really think about everything that happened tonight. Every glance and meaningful silence and the tone of every peal of laughter. It's a world so different from the practical collegiality of the workshop. I'm pretty sure I said that word wrong, and I apologize. But it's a world in which you'll need to be comfortable if you're going to lead one of the most respected groups of artisan magicians in Florence. End of chapter 6. So, our health has taken a slight hit. We're still fairly neutral health. We're not dying yet, but it's not good. The workshop morale has stayed a little bit over 50%. We're not bad. We have a lira and 4 soul to our name at the moment, and the workshop is still, as always, running low on supplies. The fresco is complete. The machine has not even been begun. The weapon for Alfonsina Orsini is finished. The flying machine for Henrico we've made some progress on, and the magic purse de Medici we have yet to start. As far as our magic goes, we are neutral with alchemy, a bit more than a dabbler in animation, and absolutely a soother. For our practical skills, we have a tiny bit of reasoning. We're fairly neutral with our dexterity. Our confidence is but our guile and is almost solid, and our strength is nice. As for our traits, we've become a bit stubborn. We're still eccentric as all get out, and a bit cautious now. We still have plenty of goodwill. We're very humanistic, and we still somewhat believe in democracy. As for our relationships, Piero is starting to realize that we don't like him that much. Fiammetta, on the other hand, is starting to realize that we like her quite a bit more. Andrea is actually pretty pleased with us. Our mother used to love us a bit more, but now she's wondering about us, but she still loves us. Giovanni de Medici likes us a little bit. Niccolo Machiavelli is still a bit fond. Dangerous solidly likes us. The Monticello is neutral once more. Giulia is also neutral. Alfonsina Orsini solidly likes us. Lucrezia de Medici, meh, she's neutral. Henrique of the Congo and Judah Leon Abravanel are a bit fond. As for our reputation, we have earned the respect of the Medici. We have lost a little bit of respect for the confraternity, so they're neutral with us again, not in a bad way. The people of Florence, solid respect. The respect of the workshop is also a bit fond as well. So as far as reputation goes, we're not doing too terribly bad. This is where I will end today's stream. We have made it to chapter 6. We've even gotten a new achievement. We have finished the fresco early, and we got it done well before the deadline, which is helpful to us to get all 3 of our projects done, whichever side. I actually think that we're probably just going to go all in on the commissions and forget the machine. Forget it. But is Friday, which means that I will not be streaming for the next 2 days. I will start chapter 7, which is beginning of the end of the story, but not quite to the end of it yet. On Monday. This is our second run. We are making all brand new choices here, as many as we can, and hope once more with perhaps a different ending. So, if someone wants to make the machine, let them. Saves us a fair bit of hassle. Yes, absolutely. I will be giving my voice a break for the next 2 weeks, or 2 days, I should say, not 2 weeks, 2 days. We will come back on Monday. It will be great. And until then, I will see you there. Let's see if I have a friend up and running to raid. Well, I do not have a friend, but let's go raid Critical Role. They're doing something fun over there. Critical Role is always a great time. It is Friday. Um, so we're gonna raid the Critical Role channel just because we love them, or at least I do. I hope the rest of you do too. As so, have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you on Monday. And oh, Critical Role does not accept incoming raids. Never mind, we won't raid them. They don't want us. All right, see you guys. Have a great weekend, and bye.